free live webinar that I'm about to start um, for you, for people who are interested in playing piano, for people who love piano as I do. Um, and I have some very, very specific tactical things that you can do today to implement and to go to your keyboard, to your piano, and start doing it yourself and see if that works. Before that, I'd like to give a small introduction of who I am and why I'm doing this. Well, first of all, as you know, my name is Esteban Alvarez. I'm a pianist, a concert pianist from San Jose, Costa Rica. I live here in the United States, in Austin, Texas. And I've been here for 20 years now. Why is it that I believe you can benefit from this? I guess I have some stories to tell, but to make it short, I'm a Steinway artist. For those who don't know what that is, I'm certified by Steinway and Sons, which is the longest lasting piano company in the world, an American company that have endorsed hundreds of artists, hundreds of pianists over the last 160 years. And it is a very discreet and very pure list of pianists that have some prestigious in the field. I'm going to give you some examples of past Steinway artists as Sergei Rachmaninoff, Arthur Rubinstein, Prokofiev, Horowitz, more modern Lang Lang, Billy Joel, Diana Krall, Keith Jarrett, and this server Esteban, I'm also in that list. So I believe I have some knowledge that I can share with you that is beneficial on this. On the other hand, more than the fact that I'm a Steinway artist and a concert pianist, well, I also have an education in music. I have a bachelor's degree in classical music and a master's degree in jazz studies from prestigious universities here in the United States. But also, more important, I have been teaching piano for over 2 decades now. I have helped more than 400, 500 students perhaps in my life on one-on-one settings, on a room setting. So that this is the first time that I'm actually doing this virtually, but I've done this many, many, many times. So I think I know a little bit of what the problems and challenges are when people come to me and say, well, I would like to learn this and I would like to learn that. So these are the reasons mainly why I am here, and also because this is my passion. This is what I love to do. Although I do many, many other things, I manage a couple of businesses here. I'm the executive director of an organization here in town as well. My life and my heart is in the piano. So, and I've been like that forever, and it will always be like that. So I like to share my knowledge and my abilities, whatever they are, with people that are earning and eager to learn. I'm going to tell you what this is not about so that you get a good glimpse of this as well. This is not a scam course or a scam webinar on learn how to play the piano in 20 minutes. That doesn't work like that. That would be the same thing if I say to you, become a doctor in a month, or become architecture in 2 weeks, or become a lawyer in 5 weeks. That doesn't work like that. You're not going to learn how to play the piano in 20 minutes or in 2 weeks, and that's it, and now you play and everything is happy and beautiful and pink. It doesn't work like that. Everything requires work and commitment. Now, what I'll tell you works is that there are certain tips and certain things that if you implement, it will shortcut the process. It will make things much easier and faster for you. And that's a huge, huge difference on learning in certain ways. And for people who might be tiring of books, the other day I went to a store here in Austin to look for a score, for a music score that I am learning right now. And I was looking for a particular edition, and I asked one of the clerics, and I asked him, where's the music for piano? So he pointed me to that room, and that room was literally, it was bigger than this room, and it was literally full of music books for children. I think he misunderstood, because what I was looking for was for a score, particular score of a Brahms music. But nevertheless, he pointed me to that place where the teaching music books were. And that's one of the reasons why I'm actually doing this as well. I couldn't avoid but thinking, there are at least in that room, there were at least 250 different books on how to learn to play the piano. I wonder why. Why is it that year after year they just keep making these books, and you don't see almost as many children learning or people learning as you see books out there? And it just takes to go and open one book and see, well, this is kind of the same thing. This is middle C, and then go from there, and it just on and on and on, and teaching people songs that you're not interested to learn, or the kids are not interested to learn. And it kills me to see that. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to put together a frame where all my training, all my classical music training, and all my jazz training, plus my ear training, are combined into one thing, so that people can learn online. And that's what I've been doing. In the past 3 weeks, I have worked night and day on this thing, and I've been preparing for this day so that I can share this with you in these next 45 minutes to 50 minutes. So that's kind of the introduction. This is who I am. This is what I do. And my guess is that you're here because you are also somehow frustrated, either with things that you been learning that you are not satisfied with, or what have you. If that's the case, well, this is the right place. If you are just curious, well, this is the right place too. And I like to start with a question, and I like to see the answers on the question. Would you believe me if I tell you that you can learn how to play the piano or music by ear without reading music? And I'm going to ask you a second question, but I want you to answer this question, please, a heartfelt answer. You can say no if you don't believe that. Do you believe also that playing by ear is reserved for people that have a special talent, that were born with some sort of a higher IQ or developed talent that most people don't have? For example, I'm sure you're familiar with the term perfect pitch. People that can recognize notes just by hearing them once. So like if you play one note, they will say that's a C, that's a G, and immediately. That's called perfect pitch, and that actually is reserved for people that have some sort of a different canal in their ears that most people don't have. But that has nothing to do with playing by ear. So the question to you is, if you've played before, if you've tried to play before, if you've read music before, do you believe it's possible? Which is interesting. Most people that I've asked this question to say no. You can't, especially if you're older. And when I mean older is after you're 25 years old or 30 years old. No, if you didn't learn that when you were a child, that's it. There's no way you can learn it. I want to rebuke that idea in case you have it. That's not true. There is science behind it. That is not true. You can learn how to play by ear at any time in your life. I don't care how old you are, as long as you can hear. You can learn how to play by ear. And the reason behind it is not very different than why is it that you can learn to know the difference of an orange and an apple just by smelling it. If you fold your eyes, if you blindfold your eyes and you put an orange in front of you and then you put an apple on the other hand, do you know which one is which just by the smell? Or anything. I mean, even perfumes or colognes or any flavor in the air that you can smell. You know, oh, that smells like, or that smells like. How does that happen? How do you do that? And when I mean do, how do you do that when you actually, you just know, oh, well, that's an orange. It smells like an orange. Or it smells like what have you, right? In fact, one of the things that a lot of people have been experiencing during this pandemic with COVID-19 is that they lose their sense of smell. And it freaks out everybody. Because when you really think about it, if you cannot smell something, you cannot taste it. So food doesn't taste to anything if you have the problem, because you can smell it. Now, we don't think that way about listening to sounds. We don't think that way, oh, that sounds like a major chord or like a minor chord. But it's exactly the same process. In fact, I'm going to give you another piece of evidence to review that idea that you cannot learn to play by ear. When you hear anything in the outward, that sound that I just played, not only you're listening through your ear and it goes to your brain, but your brain is matching the same notes, the same code, so to speak, inside of your brain, matches it and lights up, so to speak. Different from smells and from tastes and from things we see, when you listen to something, it actually matches the sound inside of you. In other words, your brain is creating that sound inside of you, inside of your brain. That's how powerful this is. And this is why you can learn to play by ear. Now, most of you probably took this quiz about, I think some people do have a natural ability to play by ear that I don't have. I would like to learn. I don't know if I can, but I'd like to try. Brenda, I'm telling you, you can. You're right about this. Some people have a more natural thing to do it. Some people have more natural abilities to walk, and that's why they start walking when they were, just a couple of months old. Some people walk later in life, but we all can walk unless there is a condition that allows that prevents us from walking. Humans are meant to walk, right? We are meant to use our senses in ways that we don't even know. The reason why we don't know is because we are not trained to do that. So we just don't develop them. And when we see somebody who, as you said, naturally has more inclination to that, oh wow, that has a special ability. It's not a special ability. It's just simply that it's tapping into things that we are all built inside of us. What this is about is how you tap into those things. How do you tap into those sounds? And if you took the quiz, you will see in that quiz that I put together that there are 4 categories of traps. What is your number one piano progress killer? It's either the melody trap, the harmony trap, the juggling trap, or the improv trap. Melody is that people have troubles listening to the right hand and coming up with a melody. Harmony, people that have a hard time listening to chords, and I don't know what chord goes here, and I don't know what chords goes there. Juggling, I don't know how to play with both hands at the same time. Or improv trap, I don't know how to come up with my own stuff, with my own melodies, with my own music, and so forth. the four answers to that quiz are tied to the same root, which is the sounds that reside inside our brains. How do you tap into that? Once you tap into that, you can find ways to solve these particular problems. And that's what we're going to get into that right now. So, for example, one of the things that I want you to think when it comes to melodies, and I'm going to switch the camera now to go to the piano. Let's see if you can see it. Wait. Here we go. Now you can see the piano. All right. This is a C, right? Everybody knows this is a C. When I listen to a melody, how do I know? How do I know where to go? First of all, how do I know if it goes up or down? If you were a 5-year-old kid and you have never seen a keyboard like this before, you know that the lower you go on the keyboard, the the piano, the resonance of the piano is what? Is a higher or lower? It's lower, right? These are lower notes. And as you go higher, obviously you will see the notes going higher as well, right? Well, but that doesn't tell me much other than the range of the piano. Here is something that I want you to learn right now to figure out a simple melody. If you can remember a melody that was famous for you, something that was somehow famous or that you can remember. For example, I think everybody in this room knows that famous song called Star Wars, right? The Star Wars theme, which I think is a pretty standard thing. Remember this? Well, if you remember that, and probably you can sing that in your head, da-da, that first interval, and an interval is nothing but the distance between two things, right? This first interval is what I call a fifth, a fifth. And it happens to be that if you move that to any note on the piano, let's say you go, let's start any key, you pick up a key, E. It's the same distance. So the first thing I want you to do, when it comes to a melody, oh, this is the wrong camera. Let's go to here. That's the right camera. The first thing I want you to do when it comes to figuring out a melody, I just show you how a simple song like Star Wars can teach you a particular interval. All music is built, all melodies you've ever heard, all melodies you will ever heard are built with intervals. And an interval is nothing but the distance between A and B, between one point and another point, between this note and this note. It doesn't matter where they go, that distance in between these two notes is what we call an interval. Intervals can have several lengths, right? It can be this short, it can be this big, right? So it depends on how many notes in between. That's how we call the interval. But what I want you to learn today is that a fifth, a major fifth, think of Star Wars. There are so many songs that start like that. And when you remember, when you're listening to a song that you want to learn, I don't care what song that is, if you keep thinking of Star Wars, do I hear that first two notes in this particular melody? You know that's a fifth. And you know you can play that immediately in the piano because you already recognize that interval. You recognize it, oh, that's an orange. I don't want you to recognize all the fruits, just the orange. Ah, that smells like an orange. Ah, that sounds like Star Wars. Because if you hear another melody and you hear that interval, you will see that that same interval is in that other melody as well. I'm going to give you another example. So right now we have the major fifth. I want you to think now of another interval, which is called the major third. And we can go later on why it's called a third or a fifth and all these technicalities. For now, I just want you to memorize that. What is a major third? It's the distance between three notes. And I'm going to play this for you right now so that you can hear it. See? Do, re, mi. So the distance, this is called a major third. What does that sound like? Remember the song of the Sound of Silence? So it starts with that interval. So every time you hear that sound, you remember that sounds like the Sound of Silence, the musical. And now you remember that and you see, okay, that's a major third. And if you listen that in a song that you're listening on YouTube or in your radio or in Spotify or what have you, you remember that particular interval, it'll resound with you. It will be inside your brain and say, ah, that sounds like that. And that's how you figure out melodies. And I'm going to give you an example right now. I'm going to play a song that I've never played before. You have to trust me on this one. I've never done this before. But it just came to my mind. I don't know if you remember that's movie Titanic, which was very famous with Leonardo DiCaprio. I was watching Netflix last night and I saw him in a documentary, and so it made me think of that movie. Etc., etc. You probably won't believe me this, but I have never played that before. But the reason why I can play this, the reason I can play this so easily, forget the chords, forget the left hand for a second. I'm just thinking of the melody. I'm remembering those intervals that I have learned through the last 25 years. And I know them so well that when I listen to anything, I immediately match what I'm listening to those intervals that are already inside my head. And that's how I come up with melodies. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what song it is. It can be even jazz and complicated stuff. It can be simple things. But this is the process to find out a melody. And a lot of that is trial and error, but it's a trial and error based on those little blocks that you have already built inside. So the first thing you got to know is what those intervals are. I just taught you about two particular ones, which is the fifth and the third. But there are many more. This is the second, the minor third, the fourth, the tritone, the fifth, the minor sixth, the minor seven, the seventh, and the octave. All of them. When you learn them all, you will find out that all music is built upon this concept of intervals. All melodies are built upon this concept of intervals. So before you go and buy more books and go on finding all this theory and all this stuff, the first thing to know is to realize what are those building blocks. They're very simple. And I'm just, before I move to the next subject, to the next point in this webinar, I'm going to show you all the intervals and the way you should practice them today. Here it is. I'm starting on a C, right? The smallest interval between C and the next note is this black note here, right? How do I know this is the smallest one? Because there's nothing else in between. There's no more notes in between. This is called a minor second. And it sounds like the movie Shark. Remember the movie Shark? That's it. Next interval is the major second. See, there is one note in between. Next interval is the minor third. Next interval is the major third. We just saw that one. We saw it in the example. Next interval is the fourth. You remember what song starts like that? That's the fourth. Then it comes another one called the tritone. Remember that show, the TV show, The Simpsons? Or that song also called Maria? And then the fifth, which we already saw today, is the Star Wars. Then the minor six. Remember that song Love Story? It's called minor six. Then major six. Remember that song called I Did It My Way? That's a major six. Minor seven. Major seven. And last one, octave. These are all the possible intervals you can play on the piano. And if you memorize these distances between these notes, you will see that all music that you listen to, all that music that you will ever want to play, is built upon this concept. So with that, I have explained to you very briefly. Of course, this can go in much more detail. And as we say, as you say here in this country, I'm not from this country, but as it's been said, the devil is in the details, right? And I will discuss with you a little later something that I have for you today, if you stick with me towards the end. Second thing, chords, left hand. For many people, that's a big issue. How do I find the right chords? How do I know what chords to play? This goes back to the science. Well, how do you know what chords to play if you don't even know if this is a major, a minor chord, or the quality of the chord? How do I know? How can I understand that? So we have to think in two major kind of blocks of chords. And interestingly so, most people in this planet feel the same way about them. I'm going to play right now two kind of chords, and I want you to write in the chat right after I play if this sounds sad or happy or melancholic or joyful or what have you. No preconceptions. Just tell me what you feel, okay? I'm going to play the chord and you're going to tell me. And I'm not going to make any face so that you can see my face if I am happy or sad. I'm just going to play the chord and you're going to tell me if you think this is a happy or joyful or exciting or hopeful sound, or if it is a melancholic or sad or dark or whatever adjective you want to use. But I want you to type it in, okay? This is chord number one. Here we go. And I want to hear your answer now. Good. Yeah. Happy. How do you know that? How do you know that's a happy chord? I'm going to give you a very scientific reason. You don't know. There is no way you know this. It's built inside of you. That's how you know. It's not something coming inside, it's coming outside of you. This is why it matches in your brain and it wires certain things inside your brain and says that's happiness. You don't need to know music to know that. You don't need to be a musician to know that. It just happens because we're built that way. And as I said, what you just did, you're just tapping into the sounds inside your brain. Here's another one. Number two. Ready? Go. Dark. What else? Sad. Yes. Melancólico. Yes. That's right. Again, Why? I don't know. There's some this guy, Doctor. I think I have the book somewhere here. Dr. Levitan. He explains that it might be for social reasons that we relate them to things, but he actually believes this goes way, way, way back in time. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago. Um, this is how primordial music is. And just so you know, guys, what how passionate I'm about this thing. Music is just as primordial as language. It doesn't come after language. In fact, this comes before language. We learned how to communicate musically before we learn how to communicate with words. And that's the cliche that music is the universal language and that music expresses things that words cannot. And that's true. And you know that is true. And you just gave me a reason why this is the way. You're calling those chords happy, sad, and so forth. Because you are tapping into those resources inside of your brain that tells you wired this way or wired this way. And that's how you know. Music now, beautiful music, is built upon the combination of those things and many more. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to play something that is just so pretty. And by the way, don't confuse pretty or beautiful with happy. We have that tendency in this Western world, and especially here in America, that everything good has to be happy. That's not necessarily right. There are some things that are not necessarily sweet, but that are good, right? And vice versa. And there are things that are sweet and beautiful, and then they are not good for us. So don't confuse the two. And the same is with music. You can find that there is beautiful music that is sad, that awakens melancholic feelings or tear apart feelings or things like that. So I'm going to play something for you right now as a combination of things. And I hope you like it. But if you remember that song, Romeo and Juliet, I'm going to play it just briefly so that you can see what I'm talking about. And I want you to listen to the combination of chords between happy and sad. I don't know if you recall that movie and that story, Romeo and Juliet, which is a sad thing, and the whole piece has more sad or dark chords than happy chords. Now, let me ask you a question: was this piece beautiful? Did you like it? Does it make you feel something? And you don't have to answer. If you want to, you can answer. You can say, no, I hate that song, or I don't like it. But for most people, that's a beautiful piece of music, right? And the reason is because it has a really nice combination of sadness and melancholic feelings and darkness with sweetness. And so it's a beautiful piece of music. Same thing with Beethoven. Remember this? That's a minor chord thing based on, and yet it's a beautiful piece, right? So what we're going to do right now, before anything, before you learn, now the question is, well, how do you know which goes here and which goes there? Well, the way to answer that question first is to know whether the chord you're listening to, when you're listening to something, is major or minor. And here's the way we're going to learn that, how to construct major and minor chords, because there is no way to know these things before you know how to make them. So let's go on this real quick. Let's see. So a major chord. Let's use our C as a starting point. Let's use the C as a starting point. This is C major. This is a C chord, right? I mean a C note, just a note. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to, we're going to build a major chord first. I want you to use very simple counting as when you were in primary school, elementary school. We're going to count, and we're not going to use this as a counting. This is the way, this is the note we land on. So we're going to land on a C, and we're going to count 4 little steps. Let's see. 1. I cannot count this as a step because remember, a step is the distance between 2 notes. So there is no distance between this and this, right? The distance between where I am and where I am is nothing. I'm here and there is no distance between I and I. The distance between C and C is nothing, right? So we cannot use that as a count, but we're going to start with the very next note. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our next landing note. So again, we take any note. We're going to use C as an example. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And you make sure you put your 2 fingers there because we're going to keep going from here. And now we landed here, right, in this note. Now we're going to count after 4, we're going to count plus 3. Same thing. I cannot count this one because this is the one I landed on. So the very first next one would be this one, right? Because there's nothing else in between. 1, 2, 3. And guess what's that? What is this? Is this happy or sad or melancholic or joyful? Or type in the chat. Please let me know what you think about this. I want to hear your answers. Does this sound happy? Does it sound joyful? Happy. There you go. That's right, Sandra. Let's see what Brenda says. Or Susie, what do you think it is? Happy, but I think in major and minor more than happy or sad. That's right. That's great. That's exactly what we're going to call them. We're going to call happy major. That's how we think of them. This is happy. This is major, right? Now we're gonna go switch to the next one, which is the minor one. The second big block of chords, which are minors. Same thing. Let's take our starting note. And we're going to switch the counting. Instead of +4 +3, we're going to go +3 +4. 1, 2, 3. And then 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I landed here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how we make a minor chord. So we have major and we have minor. Even if you just take major chords, listen to this, how beautiful this sounds on the piano. I was just playing major chords. Now, the next question is, well, now I know how to make major and minor chords because that was the main thing first before we even know where to put them. Now, how do you know which one goes where? And how do I know when I play a song, I can find out this chord or this chord or that chord? Okay, for that reason, for that question and for that particular problem, there is a solution which has to do with chord progressions. There are ways where music has been built and, so to speak, accommodate that is common to all music you listen to. There is no one song in the Western music, because I would say maybe Chinese and Indian music has some different patterns. But in our Western music world and the music that we listen to, all the music you've ever listened to, probably most of it, and that you will ever listen to, that you like, is built upon those patterns and those chord progressions that I'm going to show you. There are many chord progressions, many. But there is a way to know when something goes after something else. There is a way to find that out. I'm going to give you right now just one simple chord progression that you will hear virtually in any song that you've ever wanted to play or that you've ever listened to. And I'm going to show you that right now and how to find it out. Here it is. Bear with me on this one. Same thing. Let's gonna use C as a reference point. I'm gonna play in the key of C. What does it mean to play in the key of C? I'm not gonna go into these details right now because this requires further explanation. But for the sake of time, the key of C is just the scale that you can build playing all the white notes on the piano. No black notes, no black keys, just white keys. In other words, this. That's the key of C major. Okay? Don't worry about the fingers, even if you just want to use one finger. It's the same thing. It's the same key. I'm only playing white keys, right? And that's called the key of C major. We're going to play a C major chord. We just built one a couple of minutes ago, right? Now, look at the pinky. The pinky is playing the first note of that key, right? Meaning I am in the key of C major because I just show you a scale, and I'm using C as a reference. And you have to trust me on this one because we cannot go into all these details. This is called the key of C major. So this is the first note of the key of C major, right? This is the second note of the key of C major. This is the third note of the key of C major. Bear with me. This is the fourth note of the key of C major, the fifth note of the key of C major, the sixth note of the key of C major, the seventh note of the key of C major, and the eighth note of the key of C major. And when you play the eighth note, you're back into the first one. It's the same note, right? So these are all the notes of the key of C major. So we're going to call it 1, right? This is the first note. This is 1. So I'm going to build a chord on the first note of the key of C major, which we just did. It's called C major. Now I am going to build a chord on the second note of the key of C major, which is D. But since I'm only playing white keys, I'm not playing black keys, these are the notes I'm going to play, right? I can't play any black keys because the key of C major doesn't have black keys. So I'm playing this chord, and this chord happens to be minor. It's called D minor. D plus 3, 1, 2, 3, plus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? First chord, C major. If you have the keyboard in front of you, do it with me. Second chord, D minor. Look, it's the same position. It's like playing, just moving your hand, because it's playing one note, then the second one you don't play it. Play the other one, the second you don't play it. It's every other note, right? Move to the next key, which is D minor. And then I want you to move to the fifth note of the key. Again, we're in the key of C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be G, right? And I'm going to build a chord on this key, on this note, G. All white keys, same thing, every other note. So for the sake of simplicity, for this example, just play a chord built on every other note. Play first note of the key, second note of the key, and then fifth note of the key. And this is the progression I want you to learn. 1, 2, 5, and 1. 1, 2, 5, and 1. And the chords are C major, D minor, G major, and back to C major, right? 1, 2, 5, 1. And I want you to think very briefly what I'm doing here. I'm going to do something to simplify it. Look, instead of jumping to the 5, going back to the 1, this 5 is G, B, D. I can change it. I can change the order. D, G, B. Instead of G, B, D, I'm going to pass this D back here, right, to make it simpler. So look. And I can prove to you that this progression, 1, 2, 5, and 1, is built pretty much in every song that you've ever listened to. In fact, there are many songs written this way, just with these 3 chords. Remember this? 1, 2, 5, 1. The way I think when I play chords is I think of rooms. Every key is a room. The key of C major has a room where only the notes of the key can play. The key of D is a room where only the notes that belong to that key can play. It's like having compartmentalized little different boxes and rooms for each key. As I said, this goes much more in detail. But for now, I just want you to understand that there are patterns that you can put together right now. For example, that one that I just taught you, which is 1, 2, 5, 1. And I assure you, I don't care what song you're thinking about, that there is a 95% chances that that progression is inside that song that you're thinking about. You name it. In fact, if you want to, if I know it, I might not know it, but if you type a song that I might probably have never even played before, if you type the name of the song that you're working on, that you're particularly like to work on, just type it and let me know what it is, and see if I can show it to you real quick on the keyboard, so that I can prove my point. Type then a song that you might like and that you might be interested in learning. By the way, I want to make a very clear disclosure here, since we're a little bit over half, actually towards the last part of the webinar. I have put together a course where all these details, all these nuances, all this knowledge that you're listening here right now in detail is explained over the course of 7 lessons. 7 lessons with me virtually, pre-recorded, that you can have access anytime you want. Now, the song is Sway. Let me see if I can listen to that. Let me see if I can listen to that song, Brenda, and I will play for you right now in the next couple of minutes. But what I was telling you is that I made the calculation on this, and I just wanted to tell you that I have put together this course of 7 lessons with me, with a couple of things that I'm doing today. If you join me today on my course, if you decide to move forward and purchase this course that I'm letting you know about, you also will have 2 25 sessions one-on-one with me as part of this, because I'm not going to do this again. This is only for you guys that joined today. But this course, I'm explaining in detail all this theory and all this behind, with specific examples, with specific things, so that you can learn to overcome these obstacles that you probably would like to overcome when it comes to playing the piano. I have asked around, for example, for people who teach piano here in Austin, Texas, and the lessons vary between $65 to $120 an hour. My rates, personally, when I teach on one-on-one in a home, I normally charge $150 when it is out call, and $120 when it is here in my studio. So all this to say that I have put this thing together especially so that you can go back over and over again to specific lessons as many times as you want, and also have a one-on-one session with me so that we can tackle specific things in the environment of your house, with the comfort of your room, where you don't have to be driving around and all the stuff. I've also seen how long it takes to move to get to a place when it comes teaching, and that's one of the reasons I stopped doing out calls is because just to drive, at least here in Austin, it takes me forever to do that. And I don't like that. I spend up to 40 minutes just to go to a place to teach. And it's killing me. By the time I get there, I'm tired already. And it's frustrating. And also, that doesn't respect the progress and the momentum of the student, the timing of the student. Sometimes you feel better in the morning, where you feel more open to learning things, or at night, like myself. I feel a little bit more energized to learn things at night than during the daytime. So for me, it works better if I just sit down after 7, after 8 in my computer, in my room, to do my things in music or whatever else that I'm learning. So this course allows you to do that. This course is not based on any books or any of that stuff that you can go and buy on a bookstore or a music store, and neither is based on a YouTube video that you can watch for free, because I believe knowledge is an investment. And if this is something that you want to invest on, this is as an investment in yourself. And I think is an investment that if you were going to pay for this live and based on my rates, it will cost you $840. And I'm giving it today. I'm giving this course for $497 with 2 sessions of 25 minutes on one-on-one, one after the 3rd lesson and the other one towards the end of your lessons. I'm going to tell you something else. 97% of people who buy courses online don't finish them or don't go through them. This can change. When it comes to investing in yourself and you really, really want to learn, you can say, well, this is something I can't commit. And this is why I made a quiz, so that I know if you're here, and I know you are here because you're interested, is because this is something that has been in your in the back of your mind for some time. It's not something that just pop up in your Facebook or Instagram feeds and you just wanted to do it. This is something that you're interested in. So if you are interested in this, if you are committed to go through this process with me, and if you join today, and there is a link for that, you will have access not only to this course today, all these details as we're going here, but much more in detail, but you will have access as well to one-on-one session online with me, where we can tackle specific things. And actually, we can even work on maybe a song or something that you're interested in working on. Because the whole point of this is to learn to play by ear. Now, you might want to think about it or take your time on this, but I know one thing for sure, because I'm doing this for 20 some years. What is the price of not taking action when you don't do something? It's just things keep going the same way. And it's interesting when people say, and I hear this all the time, I'm sure you do too, oh, I don't have time for that. I just don't have time for that. We all have the same time. We all have 24 hours a day. What changes among people is the priorities people have. How much time we dedicate to something versus something else. And I think if you're like me and you like to invest in yourself and you like to feel like you're doing something for yourself, as little as it can be, but that little starts moving the needle. I read a book recently, it's called The Atomic Habits, and it is amazing. If you change just 1% a day of anything, of your business, of your learning, of your career, of your parenting, whatever, at the end of the year or after a year goes by, you've changed 365%. Now think about it. If you take 7 lessons on piano with a mindset of how to play by ear, how I'm going to develop this, and after those 7 lessons, you now can play a specific song that you've always wanted to play, you've never played before, how do you think you're going to feel after that? How do you think you're going to feel after you conquer that little, you call it little, but in the big scheme of things, it's not that little, because that is the one thing that started moving the needle. So I invite you to take that action. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I know this works. And I've taught to many, many people, and in fact, I can show or share with you the results that other people have had in the past with this methodology, which is my own methodology on how to play and approaching music. You can ask many people that know me that I sit on the piano and I just play. I don't read the music. I don't follow scores. Now I know how to read music. I know I went through all that training, but the thing that has allowed me to perform and do all the things that I've done is this ability to play by ear, to come up with my own arrangement, to come up with my own music. Because of that, I have won several international piano competitions. Because of that, I'm a Steinway artist. Because of that, I have recorded with known artists. I perform with several artists around the country and around the world. I'm about to launch my third album as a soloist, which will be ready this coming December, and I will let you know about that too. It's called Roots of the World. And because of that, I keep active in music, is because I have this ability to play by ear that I learned many years ago. But I wish back in those days somebody would have explained to me that knowledge the way I understand it today. And because today I can put it all together and explain it to you, is that I think it's a great opportunity. This is the best chance for you to do it, because also you will have access to me one-on-one to work on these things personally in a couple of lessons as well. So just to mention that, and I hope you feel ready, there will be a link at the end of this webinar. And to finish, we want to talk about the last two struggles people have. One is the juggling trap, and the other one is the improv trap. And I'm going to go back to the keyboard real quick so to show you how that works. Let's see. The keyboard is here. So, juggling. Just as anything else, what juggling means is that you do two different things with your hands or whatever, your feet or whatever, right? Well, it's not any different than on the piano. And I want you to do one thing to begin with. Very simple. Just take two notes. I don't care what note it is. I'm going to take two Gs. And I just want you to do this very simple exercise of playing just this simple rhythm. Easy, right? Now I want you to do this. Now I want you to do this. And now I want you to do this. I'm going to switch it up a little bit like this. Same rhythm here. And now I'm going to use, now this is so just you can see how rhythms work. I'm doing different rhythms with both hands. Now I'm doing it at the same time, but nevertheless, there are two different rhythms. Now I want you to use two notes here and just one note here again. I'm going to use C and G. Look at this. That's simple, isn't it? And I'm going to use 2 notes here. And what you're seeing is I'm just combining these rhythms on and on and on and on and on, right? And I'm now going to do something a little bit more, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. It's a little bit more complicated. I'm going to play another rhythm here, which is this. Triplet, 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 triple. I'm going to play on this hand. Let's try to do that. This is going ta 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 ta, and this is going ta 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 ta. I assure you, if you go with this practice over 15 minutes, you will completely master this process of putting rhythms together. This is what juggling is about. It's just playing different rhythms with your 2 different hands. And eventually, all you do is just to extrapolate that to your fingers individually. I'm just extrapolating rhythms, all this. Just doing it with different fingers. While the right hand does other rhythms. If I were going to do just the rhythms of what I just did, it will sound like this. Listen to that again. See, all that is this. Rhythm-wise is this. That's the juggling part. You first, when it comes to juggling, you first learn the rhythms and then you extrapolate it to the notes. Let me put this other camera here. When it comes to juggling, you first learn rhythms and then you put it, like, next you extrapolate it to the notes, to the individual notes, but it all comes down to rhythms. You can even practice that without the piano, just on your lap.
And by the way, that's a great exercise for your brain. It keeps your brain sharp when you can do these two things individually at the same time. And again, that is all comes naturally after you practice them enough. Once you do this over and over and over again, eventually becomes second nature, and you can do it with no effort whatsoever. At first, it can be a little bit complicated. It's not any different when people, remember when you were a child and people ask you to tap this and to do circle, it's the same thing. After you've done it a couple of times, you do, yeah, that's easy. Well, it's not any different than this. It's the same thing. We just gotta sit down and commit to that practice. And by the way, that practice doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. Unless you want to become a concert pianist and perform in Carnegie Hall in the next 10 years, you don't have to do these hours and hours and hours. You can dedicate a small amount of time per day, per week, and you can see still a progress in your learning. And the last thing before we wrap up will be the last category, which is the improvisation, the improv trap. Again, improv, what's the difference between improvisation and composition? The only difference between improvisation and composition is the timing. Improvising is composing on real time. Now, let me ask you this question, and I'm sure you will have the answer to this. If you and I were talking right now, one-on-one, do you practice every word and the order in which you will say the words you're going to say to me? In other words, would you write up a script to talk to me? And if you didn't write up the script, you just won't talk because you went off the script. If we had conversations like that, first of all, it wouldn't be a conversation. And second, it would be awful. I don't know who can put up with that kind of pressure, right? Because conversation doesn't happen like that. You, in order to know how to converse, how to speak fluently, you first learn the language, learn the words, and then eventually you put those words together in order to come up with sentences that make sense, in order to come up with phrases that make sense, that convey meaning. Music is not any different. Learning how to improvise, as I said before, it is not this magic, mystical ear that some people have that other people don't have. It is simply, you learn the language of music, you learn the building blocks. What are the building blocks? The intervals we spoke about. You memorize them. You learn another building block, the major chords, the minor chords, how to make them, how they sound. You learn the building blocks, how to jog, how to put this rhythm together with this other rhythm. And then when you have all these elements together, there are rules and there are certain patterns that you can see, oh, okay, now I understand. Now I can see this conversation goes this way. I can see this conversation goes that way. And I'm going to mention this very briefly so that you can see what I'm talking about before we wrap it up. Let me show you this. When you're playing a sequence of chords, let's use the chords that we just learned. C major, D minor, G major, and C major, right? C major, D minor, G major, and C. And again, I'm going to move the G down here so that I don't have to be jumping on the keyboard. Every chord you play is built on 3 notes. These 3 notes have a name. They are root, third, and fifth. the root, the third, and the fifth. And the way these names are given is because it's based on the scale, as we spoke. The root is the number 1, the third is the 3rd degree on the scale, and the fifth is the 5th degree on the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see. So every chord you play, it doesn't matter if it's major or minor, every chord you play has a root, a third, and a fifth. Root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. And so when you play a sequence of chords, if you play a melody around the third on each of these chords, see what happens. This is the first chord, this is the third. This is the second chord, D minor, this is the third, F. This is the third chord, this is the third, B. Right? So look what happens. These are the thirds. I'm going to build something, whatever something is, around these notes that I just played, the thirds. Look at this. I'm going to do it again. Excuse me. As you can see, I'm only playing things around the third of each note, of each chord. Now I'm going to expand that a little bit more. Now let's look at this. I'm going to play this up here so that you can see the thirds more clearly here. See, everything I'm doing is around these thirds. And so when you play around the third of each chord and you build something around that, it starts sounding pretty. And again, it doesn't matter what it is. And that's how improvisation happens. And by the way, that's how composition happens, because that's how you can come up with your own melodies, with your own songs, with your own music. And this is the way to solve the problem. How do I know how to improvise? Well, first of all, let's find out the third of each chord that you're playing, and then let's start building something around that third. In other words, if you build a house around the third, it's like building a house on foundation, on the right foundation. It'll be right. No matter what you do, you're starting, no matter how many rooms or how many bathrooms or doors or windows you put on it, you're starting on the right foundation. This is what the third does when you play around the third of each chord when it comes to improvising. And that's how you fix the problem. But you see there is a sequence of things that you need to know. And again, the devil is in the details. It has been a pleasure. I thought it was going to be a 45-minute webinar. It's been 1 hour and 33 minutes now, and this times goes fast for me when it comes to these things. It has been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for giving me this hour and a half of your time. I know you could have been doing something else, but you wanted to be here because you are committed and you wanted to learn. I want to invite you one more time. If you join me today, right after this is over, you will be linked to a link. And you've joined me for today's, after joining me, because you joined me today in this webinar, and because you stick to the end, and you join the course today, I will give you 2 sessions with me during the course of your training. Not just 1, but 2. Normally, I will give only 1. And normally that 1 session that I'll give is a 15 minutes because everything is already pre-recorded. On this particular day, because you are here, because you're joining, because you took this time to watch me and to follow through this, I'm giving you 2 of 25 minutes that we're going to do, one in the first 3 lessons and the other one after you complete the course or towards the end of the course, so that we can tackle specific things. And this will be my incentive for you to act today, not tomorrow, not to think about. And I say, the worst thing that can happen is not to take action. My dad has always told me, there's nothing worse than the regrets you will have in life are not much based on the things that you did, but on the things that you didn't do. So I invite you to do this. I invite you to join me on this journey of music. I'm sure you will enjoy it. I'm sure you will get the best out of it. And I'm sure you will learn, because I want you to think, what would it feel like in a few months from now, where you can sit on the piano and say, now I understand this. Oh, now I can hear this. Now I know how this goes. Now I can figure this out. Now I can play this. This is what this will do for you. And this is my commitment to you. But I only want you to do this if you're fully committed, if you know this, that you're going to go through the process. There's no shortcuts on this. There's no learn to play the piano in 10 days. There's nothing, none of that stuff ever works. And if anybody says that to you, is lying and is just stealing money from you, which I think this is unethical. And yeah, we're living in a world where a lot of things are unethical, and a lot of things we live in times where our values are relative. I still believe, based on my tradition and my religious beliefs, that good is good and bad is bad, and there are better things than others. I still trust knowledge. I still trust the people who know the most. I still trust authorities, some of them, but most of them that have spent their entire life investigated and in research and in science. I trust them. And I also trust the musicians that have gone through the process, who have gone through the pain of years of training and all that. I don't trust people that tell me, oh, you will do this in just 15 days or 10 days or make money in 2 weeks as you sleep. All the same stuff. That's all scam, and there are people that have no problem in scamming people. Well, this is not about that. I need your commitment, but I will guide you through that commitment, and I will go with you, and you will see the results on the other side. And I want you to think of that. and that this opportunity right now would be the best chance for you to have, because also you will have chance to work with me personally for 2 sessions. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you join me today, and you will hear from me very soon. Have a good rest of the day and have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.